One of the worst nightmares for Israeli families is to hear that their son or daughter has been kidnapped by terrorists. Chris Mitchell has more on what happens when a family gets a dreaded knock at the door.
For decades, Middle East terror groups have used kidnapping as a weapon, often publicizing their victims in front of television cameras. It can inflict long-term pain on families while providing ransom to finance terror operations. Hamas and Hezbollah have used elaborate border tunnels to cross into Israel to kill or kidnap Israelis. One such victim, Gilad Shalit, was kidnapped along the Gaza border in 2006. He languished in captivity until 2011, when Israel agreed to a massive prisoner exchange for Shalit's freedom. Like many other families, it was years of torment, not knowing if they would ever see him again. In the book, A Knock at the Door, the story of my secret work with Israelis, MIAs, and POWs, Ori Slonim tells the inside story of Israel's secret efforts to bring home their kidnapped soldiers. For his work, this Israeli lawyer became known as the door knocker.
Well, Ori Slonim joins us now, and welcome to the 700 Club. It's a real honor to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. My honor.
Let's talk about your background. I'm reading the book, and you come from generations who lived in Hebron. Your family moved there. One of your ancestors wrote one of the revered texts of the Hasidics, the Tanya. So here you are, you're growing up in that background, and then you become a lawyer, you're in private practice. How in the world do you get involved in all this cloak and dagger negotiations to release kidnapped soldiers?
You know, like everything in life, accidentally. It was 1986 when the president of Israel, Mr. Chaim Herzog, the late Mr. Herzog, approached me and asked me if I would like to volunteer for 1 year to assist a little bit to the IDF dealing with our missing in action soldiers. And he said, would you like to volunteer for 1 year? And I said, okay, it will be all right. And this 1 year, became 34 years of volunteering. And at a certain stage, after 1.5 years, I got a title as a special consultant for a defense minister. And from that time, I was a special consultant for, I think, 7 defense ministers and prime ministers. And I did it for 1 shekel a year. And I think I didn't retire, but I stopped my actual dealing with that at the day that Gilad Shalit came home.
Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the negotiations. And it's interesting, in your book, you reveal one of the things that was taught to you, I believe, by your grandfather, that in a boxing match, a champion boxer against a child from the projects who has a broken bottle in his hand, who's going to win that fight? And you thought the boxer, but you were told, no, actually, the kid with the broken bottle is going to win every single time. How did that help you in negotiations with terrorists?
You know, that's the formula of, I think, of our life nowadays, not only in Israel, I think it's worldwide. Most of the wars are not among countries or states, but among states and organizations. And, when you live in a democratic state or even not non-democratic, and you have to face an organization which is acting on other way of rules, and nothing is so organized like you as a state. So this battle is something which is very strange towards the old wars and the old conflicts which were among states. At the end of wars, there were exchange of prisoners of war with the treaties, with laws. And I believe that nowadays it's something very, very unstable. So the whole thing is something which we were not used to until, I believe, the 80s or the 90s. And, it's an unbalanced way of thinking. and unbalanced way of treating each other.
Well, let's walk us through the specific case of Gilad Shalit. Here's someone, he's kidnapped by Hamas. You've given a whole chapter in the book on this, to the release and the negotiations. And I think it's still controversial in Israel today because 1,000 terrorists were traded for him. So walk us through, how difficult were those negotiations?
I can't tell you how difficult, because I believe every negotiation on its merits, we are using from time to time, quite frequently, we are using mediators, and most of the negotiations are being dealt with the intermediate messengers, like, like head of secret services, past head of secret services, like the German one or others. And sometimes we do it directly, face to face. But at the end of the day, it's like any negotiation you have in life. The only thing which you have is to assess the credibility of, not of the person, but the credibility of information, and the credibility of having at the end of the day an agreement. But at the end of the day, when you come to a solution to any case, it's a done deal. And we did it.
Well, walk me through why Israel does this. It seems like Israel never gives up on bringing back missing soldiers, people who are kidnapped, and doing so even for decades. In the United States, we seem to have this public policy of we don't negotiate with terrorists, but Israel's showing that maybe that's not such a good policy. Why is this such a passion for Israel?
I think that the state of Israel is one of the few states worldwide that has, three ways of service in the army. The first one is when you're reaching the age of 18, it's a compulsory service, everyone, men. And then the second one is women, it is compulsory. And the third one is having a reserved service, which you serve sometimes until the age of 40, 50. So I don't think there is any other state in the world that is sending its boys and girls to this compulsory service. And I think that when you send somebody, it's your duty. It's your duty without any hesitation to bring it back.
I thank you for the book, and I'll also underline, I'll thank you for one of the life lessons I've got from it. Don't wait until you retire to live your life. Work very hard in the morning, and then go take a swim, and then go enjoy your life. It's a great lesson, and the book is absolutely filled with life lessons like this. It's called A Knock at the Door. It's available wherever books are sold. And Ori, thank you for your life. Thank you for your volunteer service for the state of Israel. And thank you for being with us. We'll be back with more of the 700 Club right after this.